It's truly an honor. It wasn't that long ago that I remember sitting, for each and every one of you are sitting here as students. Or maybe it was that long ago, but it's come full circle. Time does fly. Today I'd like to tell you a story about Staff Sergeant David Bellavia. He is the one and only living Medal of Honor recipient from Operation Iraqi Freedom. And this story comes directly off of his Medal of Honor citation. Staff Sergeant David Bellavia was a squad leader in support of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq. Their mission on the night of November 10th, 2004, was to clear a block of 12 buildings where they thought 6 or more insurgents had taken shelter. The Bradley fighting vehicle was supposed to provide fire support, but a malfunction on the 25mm cannon meant the platoon would have to kill or capture the anti-Iraqi forces without it. After finding nothing in the first 9 buildings, Bellavia's platoon moved to the next compound, where they immediately came under fire from the front hallway. 2 insurgents manning machine guns under the stairwell had been waiting to ambush the soldiers as they attempted to clear the home. Moments later, more AIF opened fire from the window. The combined gunfire from the stairwell and the window meant that the soldiers were trapped. Rounds from the insurgents' weapons struck the walls and floor and began wounding soldiers. 2 of them were bleeding due to shattered glass, and the other was grazed from around on the stomach. Unless something happened quickly, the trapped soldiers would soon die. Recognizing the danger they were in, Bellavia exchanged weapons with the M249 saw gunner and entered the fatal funnel of the room. As enemy rounds snapped past and impacted the walls around him, Bellavia squeezed the saw trigger until it was empty, forcing the enemy to take cover, allowing the soldiers to pull back and retreat safely into the streets. Sergeant Bellavia then called for another Bradley fighting vehicle to suppress outside the building. After the BFE fired several 25mm rounds into the house, Bellavia decided to move back inside to determine whether the insurgents still occupied the bottom of the floor. He placed 2 saw gunners and another soldier in the courtyard as an inner cordon, while he and Michael Ware, a Time magazine journalist, entered the house. Upon entering, David Bellavia heard insurgents whispering from the other side of the wall. Mr. Ware was told to run if anything had happened, but insisted on following. Bellavia entered the room, and firing at the insurgents was forced to fall back after receiving returning fire. Sergeant Bellavia looked into the room a second time and saw that one of the insurgents was loading a rocket-propelled grenade launcher. Understanding exactly how devastating this weapon could be to his platoon, Bellavia single-handedly assaulted the room and neutralized the insurgent with the RPG. A second insurgent fired a machine gun at Bellavia, who shot and wounded him before he fled into the kitchen. For some time, Staff Sergeant Bellavia and another soldier exchanged gunfire with the insurgent hiding in the kitchen. When the soldier began to run low on ammunition, Bellavia told him to leave and bring back an M16 and a shotgun. Alone again, Bellavia realized that his back was facing the room he had not cleared. He quickly moved into it, clearing each corner. An insurgent ran down the stairs and started firing at him. Bellavia found cover against the wall and thought for his next move. Through the gunfire, he could hear screams from upstairs from the room he had just cleared. While Bellavia tried to assess the situation, the wounded insurgent in the kitchen ran towards the bedroom door and began blindly firing an AK-47. Bellavia returned fire and continued to improve his position for a better shot. Once the insurgent exposed himself in the doorway, Bellavia aimed, fired, and eliminated the threat. The insurgent on the stairs immediately began firing again, but as he turned to aim, Bellavia saw his exposed position and eliminated the threat. The insurgent slumped to the floor, mortally wounded. Suddenly, another insurgent leapt out of the wardrobe and began firing. as he tripped on the furniture, pulling it down to the floor. Luckily, it landed with both doors open, providing Bellevue with cover. The insurgent got to his feet and attempted to move across the bed, but he lost his balance, and Bellevue shot him multiple times. As he fell to the floor, the insurgent fired. It burst from his weapon, narrowly missing Bellevue. The wounded insurgent then picked himself up and ran upstairs to the second floor. Bellevue followed the insurgent upstairs, where he heard another in the room to the left. Bellevue tossed a grenade into the room, and the blast knocked the insurgent into the second-story roof. Seriously wounded from gunfire and shrapnel, the insurgent tried to give away Bellevue's position until he was silenced. Exhausted both physically and mentally, Bellevue took off his helmet, set down his weapon, and waited for the other soldier to arrive. Then while Bellevue smoked a cigarette, another insurgent jumped from the third-story roof to the second story. As the insurgent landed just 3 feet from Bellevue, dropping his weapon, and he reached to grab his weapon, Bellevue had enough time to shoot him with his M16. When the wounded insurgent attempted to raise the weapon again, Bellevue fired the rest of his magazine into him, causing the insurgent to fall into the garden below. Then Bellevue was called back to move in outside and to move his unit out of the area due to incoming close support mission. That night, David Bellevue single-handedly saved his entire squad, risking his own life to allow his fellow soldiers to break contact and recognize when trapped by overwhelming insurgent fire. He then voluntarily entered and cleared the insurgent strong point, killing 4 and seriously wounding another. His actions stand as a testament to those who put everything on the line as they do the grim work required to keep each other safe and alive on the battlefield. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the type of hero America continues to produce. In many ways, humble at home, but fiercely brave on the battlefield. Most Americans profess a true love of our veterans, especially at gatherings like this, on Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And while their feelings are sincere, it is important to remember that veterans are defending this great nation 365 days a year. Their heroism has been demonstrated time and again by veterans from the American Revolution all the way to the global war on terrorism. It is sometimes unnoticed by many who enjoy that security that their sacrifice has provided. Not all veterans have seen combat, but all, at one time, made the solemn promise to sacrifice their lives for this country if called upon. Without the formidable strength that veterans have demonstrated at war, Americans would never enjoy their daily freedoms. It is none other than George Washington who said, quote, "To be prepared for war is one of the most effective means of preserving peace." For many veterans, our nation is very important enough to endure long separations from their families, missed births of their children, to freeze in sub-zero temperatures, to roast in faraway deserts, to lose limbs, and far too often lose their lives. Many families serve and sacrifice as well. Military spouses have had to endure career interruptions, frequent changes of address, and the disproportionate share of parental responsibilities. The children often had to deal with changes of schools, separation from friends, and the hardest of all, the uncertainty of knowing whether or not mom or dad will live through the next combat tour. Warriors need advocates, need strong advocates. This is why the American Legion, the AMVETS, the Marine Corps League, the VFW, the Veteran Service Officer, and organizations like my own, DC Farm for Vets, exist. We are here to serve veterans, their families, our communities, Veterans need each other. But more importantly, our country needs our veterans. We cannot fight a war without veterans, and while the utopia idea of a society without war is appealing, let us not forget that wars have liberated slaves, have stopped genocide, and have toppled terrorists. Stephen Ambrose once wrote, "America's wars have been like a rung on a ladder by which it rose to greatness. No other country has triumphed so long, so continuously, on such a vast scale, through forces of arms." Veterans Day, originally known as Armistice Day, commemorates the armistice of November 11th, 1918, the day in which the guns of World War I fell silent. Since then, this day has evolved to recognize and honor all veterans from all generations who have served in the armed forces of this of the greatest nation on earth. In times of peace and in times of war, it is our veterans that have exemplified the values of honor, courage, and commitment. They have displayed unwavering dedication to their fellow service members, their brothers and sisters in arms. Their love of their country is proven. But Veterans Day is not just a day of celebration and a day of remembrance. It is indeed a day of action. It is the day we must recommit ourselves to the well-being of our veterans and their families. In this era of uncertainty and division, it is our veterans that serve as a unifying force. They come from all walks of life, represent the rich tapestry of our nation. Yet, when they put on that uniform, they become an even greater power, the embodiment of the American spirit. Our debt to these heroes can never be repaid, but our gratitude and respect must live on forever. As of this speech, we still have 17 veterans a day committing suicide. I've heard a quote once that says, "Each of us dies two deaths. One's our physical death, and the second death is when our name is said for the last time out loud." If you happen to be struggling with these intrusive thoughts of suicide, just know that it is your duty to stay alive. It is your obligation to live, so that you may say the names of our fallen brothers and sisters out loud, so that their honor, courage, and sacrifice may live on forever. Sergeant Zachary George, Captain Tony Clemming, Sergeant Andrew Wallace, Specialist Michael Wendling, Specialist Stephen Kastner, Sergeant Ryan Jopek, Airman First Class Elizabeth Jacobson, Specialist James Watts, Private First Class Nicole Fry, and last but not least, Specialist Kevin Zielinski. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for being here today. It's been an honor to be able to speak to you. And God bless the United States of America.